So, Randy, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Randy, we're going to look into your story, your crypto story, how you got into crypto and what you're doing currently. But just before I start, the resident question that I always have is if I was to meet you in high school, what kind of person were you?
Oh boy, high school me, I was kind of like I am now, but a complete nerd. I was always doing homework all the time. People were asking me for study guides. I was one of the only people that did study guides for tests. I was doing a lot of tutoring. I was doing some sports. I played softball. I was a cheerleader. And then I got into tutoring. And then I was a dental assistant as I started Miss Teen Crypto in my junior year of high school. So the second to last year. I started Miss Teen Crypto, so I was 17 at the time, starting Miss Teen Crypto. So full on nerd, and people thought I was absolutely crazy. So maybe you would have thought I was crazy too.
Okay, awesome. So, Randy, we'll quickly get into your story because I know we're short on time today. So, you first heard about crypto quite early in 2016. That was even before crypto's second bull run, which was 2017. Um, Tell me, how did you hear about crypto?
My father actually told me about Bitcoin when I was 13 in 2016, and I honestly thought he was crazy. I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was more like the stock market and all these older people with finance experience. And essentially, I didn't think I could do anything with Bitcoin up until I was 16 in 2019. I finally gave my dad a chance, and I was like, all right, like, let's see what this is all about. We did our Bitcoin transaction, and I saw how easy it was. All you have to do is scan a QR code, copy paste an address or a username, and you could send money to anyone anywhere in the world. And I thought it was going to change the way we transact forever.
So, your father, how did your father find Bitcoin so early?
So he was on Facebook and he saw a trucker in his truck every morning talking about Bitcoin and crypto. So his name is Bitcoin Ben, who I'm very much close with. He's someone that it kind of came full circle where my dad saw him on Facebook, started following him, heard about this Bitcoin, and my dad thought it was a physical coin, but then did some more research, listened to Ben more often, and realized what it was all about. So then he had to start telling me about it. And I thought he was crazy up until I was 16. Then I started Miss Teen Crypto, and I actually became friends with Bitcoin Ben, and he's been a close friend of mine ever since.
Okay, awesome. So when you were 16 in 2019, you did your first transaction in Bitcoin. When did you start your channel?
I started Miss Teen Crypto in the end of April of 2020. So it was around lockdown time, and I was very sad. It was a very depressing time. And I love school. I love learning about things. And I everything just kind of stopped for everybody essentially. So I remember one day I was sitting outside of a park and I just was like, you know what? I want to be a part of crypto and I want to tweet. And I just created the name Miss Teen Crypto because I was too scared to use my real name at first. And I started to see that, okay, X had the same username as Instagram and Snapchat and all these other things. So I decided to take the handle and run with it. I started making videos. And then a few months later, next thing I knew, I was hitting the streets of New York asking strangers if they knew about Bitcoin and crypto. And I started minting NFTs around October or November of 2020.
Okay, so 2020, full on lockdown. March 2020, Bitcoin had a major correction when it fell from 9,200 to 3,800. You started your channel the next month. That was very, very brave. Did you start off as an investor, a trader, or just an educator?
I kind of just started off as someone that wanted to tweet about Bitcoin and crypto. I really didn't think much of it. I just thought, why not be a part of the community, especially because when I was around 16, 17, I saw that I had a few $100s in my bank account and that it wasn't appreciating in any way. I wasn't earning interest. The value of the dollar just keeps going down. So why not put that money in Bitcoin? So I kind of went into it as an investor, but I also wanted to teach people my age about Bitcoin and crypto as I learned about it too, because I felt that it was very odd that no one my age was in crypto, being that this is a whole digital space and that's what my generation is all about.
So, how did you yourself learn about crypto?
So obviously, I kept hearing my dad talk about it nonstop, but then I started to do my own research because I was like, my ego was too big. And at the time, and I didn't want to tell him I was doing any research on it. So I just started going on YouTube. I started going on Twitter and just scrolling through and seeing what people were saying, watching tutorials and how Bitcoin was made. What is the blockchain? And one other reason why I really wanted to make educational content is because when I was looking all of this up, it was too complicated. And all these videos were 15 minutes long trying to explain what Bitcoin and the blockchain is. I thought it was way too much. And that's why on my channel, I try to do videos that are at least 5 minutes or less, primarily 1 to 2 minute videos, because Gen Z has no attention span.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now let's look into 2021. So 2021 would have been your first bull run. You would have been what, 17, 18 years old?
Yep.
We had the double top. So Bitcoin went up until April 2021, where it hit 64,000 US dollars. Then it fell 50% and it ranged at 30,000 US dollars for a good couple of months before Bitcoins were taken off exchanges, and the supply shock led us to have the second peak. Now, at the second peak, the SEC was giving out Wells notices and there was economical concerns, and then Bitcoin fell into a bear market. Not only were you looking after your own portfolio, but you also had the channel as well, and it was a double top. How did you navigate 2021?
I was just kind of riding the wave. It was a big surge in sentiment, I believe, back then, because you had all the gaming content that I was doing. So a lot of crypto games were really popping off. A lot of marketing was going on with crypto exchanges, and there was a lot of utility, you could say, at the time. But there were also phases of crypto, like the beginning of DeFi, which now we have AI this cycle and more meme coin centric this cycle. So it was just very interesting. But I just kept making content. And even when Bitcoin was like 15K at the bottom of the last bear market, I started the Daily Zest, which is my daily podcast, because I just thought the sentiment is so low for no reason, because the revolution of Bitcoin and crypto has not changed. Like being your own bank, having censorship resistant transactions, valuing your money where there's a finite supply of Bitcoin, but it didn't stop the dollar from keep on printing. So I just wanted to keep the sentiment going within the community, because I just felt like there was no reason for there to be no positive energy.
So how was your portfolio? How did your portfolio? Did you sell at the top, or did you hodl? Did you do a round trip with your bags, or?
Yeah, I was hodling. I was hodling. For me, Bitcoin and crypto is something I want to hold for the long run. I believe this is generational wealth. So I want to accumulate for the next generation.
Oh, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to hold Bitcoin for my great-great-grandchildren. I want to be like the Bitcoin granny, if that makes sense.
Exactly. There's like this meme of I don't know if you've seen the meme where it's like that old like grandpa on the chair and then like the kid on the floor saying, "Where were you for that 2021 bull run?" Or like, "Are you still holding that Bitcoin, grandpa or grandma? Thank you so much." And then you're like, "Got you, kiddo."
Awesome. So are you bit of a Bitcoin maxi then, would you say?
See, a lot of people, I was actually talking about this on today's podcast, that people try to label me as a Bitcoin maxi, but then they try to label me as like a sheet coiner. And I'm neither of those, because, of course, Bitcoin is my biggest hold. It's my number one, it's my favorite. But I view that you have to, like, I'm a crypto educator, so you have to educate people on everything, because if you don't, you're doing them an injustice. Because if you educate people on Bitcoin only, that's not serving them well, because how are they going to know what else is out there to conclude them to be Bitcoin only? So I believe in everyone has the right to do what they want with their own money, do your own research, make your own decisions. And I never give financial advice either. All I'm here to do is just tell you the news, what's going on, and what these coins do.
Okay, awesome. So after 2021, we slid into a bear market. At the time, were you aware of the differences between a bull market and a bear market?
Yeah, I was, because, even I saw 2016 up until 2020, and then I saw the whole space blow up between 2020 and 2021. So when the bear market happened, it's something I knew was going to happen eventually, because if you look at past cycles with Bitcoin, you know that Bitcoin pulls back 70 to 85%. But then when it does that, it always goes back up and discovers or hits a new all-time high. So I knew that was going to happen eventually, which is why I kept creating content and I didn't go anywhere, because I strongly believe in this space and the revolution of it.
Okay, awesome. So how did you, what were you doing in the bear market? So you had your channel, you opened another podcast as well. But yourself, were you at the time, were you trading or were you investing?
I'm not much of a trader. I'm more of like a DCA, buy when I can type person. So I thought it was crazy that people weren't buying at $15,000 Bitcoin and all these other coins that were at a major discount. So I was just hodling and doing what I could to survive, essentially.
Okay, awesome. And is YouTube your main job, or do you do something else as well?
Content creation is my full time job.
Oh, lovely, lovely. Okay, so then we went into 2022 and then 2023. Let's talk about 2024. Let's talk about last year. Good year for Bitcoin. Even though we lived through it, for us it was a little bit boring. Bitcoin went from 38,000 US dollars. It made a new all-time high at 108,000 US dollars. Altcoins didn't do as well. They had a bit of a run in quarter 1 and a quarter 4. Meme season was just extended for many, many months. How did you find 2024? What was last year like for you?
I feel like 2024 wasn't the most eventful year for Bitcoin and crypto, other than the fact that it was more so an election year. So people were very focused on the election. I thought it was a good year for Bitcoin nonetheless, because we had the Bitcoin halving, which is going to play into that supply shock later on. Even we saw a different way of this cycle. Everyone swears at this 4 year cycle, but Bitcoin hit a new high before the halving. And I was actually on Fox Business to celebrate the halving as well. So I just feel as though this cycle is very different. We saw the rise of institutional awareness with Bitcoin, institutional investments, being that we had the ETFs that launched last year as well. So I feel like we had a different phase of crypto, and that's carrying into now 2025, where the election's over. Now we have a pro crypto administration, which now they're looking to have a crypto reserve, which is pretty interesting.
That was actually my next question, the ETFs. So when people like us, we got into Bitcoin, um, we believed more in the spirit of Bitcoin, the spirit of DeFi. What do you think about the ETFs and institutions and governments coming into Bitcoin and crypto?
This is a permissionless, decentralized space. So we don't really have the right to give people permission to come in or not be in the space at all. So I do believe that, like, whatever they want to do, they could obviously do, because no one can stop them. If I am going to be honest about the ETFs, I say this quite often on my show as well, that if you're going to go and buy crypto, or you want the exposure, you're going to want to go to an exchange, acquire crypto, and take it off the exchange and put it in your wallet. That's the only real exposure to crypto that you'll have. These ETFs are just another vehicle to say you have crypto exposure, but it's not really exposure, to me at least.
Hmm, hmm. And YouTube for you, your own personal journey last year, what was that like?
It was difficult. I mean, the past few years since the high of when was it, 2021, where we had the 69K high, it's been pretty rough, just because the sentiment has been low, and then you have social media that was outright censoring crypto content. And it's not just YouTube, it's a bunch of different platforms where they don't like that you speak about crypto. They don't like when you speak about decentralization and freedom. And even if you were political and talking about Trump, then you were getting censored almost immediately. So I feel like it was very difficult to build in the past few years, just because of the censorship, which I feel like is getting a little bit better now. But I think that was a huge obstacle for not just me, but any creator that was in crypto or politics.
Hmm, hmm. And how do you find it? So, with your YouTube channel and all the platforms that you have, do you find that you have more of the younger generation following you, or do you find that you have more females following you, or is it just a mix of everyone?
I would say it's a mix of everybody, because I have a lot of kids that are below the age of 10 that follow my channel just because their parents watch me. And then I have people that are a little bit older that follow me as well. But also, I go on things like Newsmax and Fox Business. So I have that audience that watches me too. So I think just because of the places I've been and the things I do, I have a very diverse audience, which I'm very grateful for, because that's more people I can educate.
Hmm, hmm. And tell me about that. How did you get to go on Newsmax?
So
And Fox?
Newsmax, yeah, Fox I was on since I was around 17 or 18 years old. So shout out to Charles Payne from Fox Business. He's on every day at 2 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate him a lot. He took a chance on me essentially. I was around 17, 18, and he saw I was on social media doing my thing. And then he invited me on one time to talk about NFTs and how the volume was in the billions of dollars. And so I was very grateful for him. And then from there, more media sites started to pick me up. I was in USA Today, the New York Times, and all of this is on my website as well. But then on Newsmax, I was connected by another friend, Hawk Crypto Mining. And so he connected me. And so I've been going on Newsmax ever since. He's on Newsmax all the time as well. So shout out to him. He's an amazing person. And so now I'm in communication with Newsmax and I go on at least once a week.
Do you ever get recognized on the street?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I do. It's not like the most often that it happens, but sometimes like people will even DM me and say, "Hey, I saw you at this place and this place. Was that you?" Or I was scared to say hi and things like that. So that does happen, especially when I was living in New York before I moved to Florida. It happened to me a lot more often, just because New York's a bigger place and I was from there, so people knew kind of where I was. So I actually had to stop posting where I was and post it maybe later on because then people would know where I was at. So that was kind of becoming an issue, but it's not something that I've ever had a bad occurrence with because people are just so friendly, and so I always welcome people. If you ever see me, say hello. But yeah, it was definitely it's interesting for sure.
So I'm in your Discord, and I've been on your live streams as well. You have a wonderful community, absolutely wonderful people that follow you and that support you. Tell me about them.
Oh my gosh, my community, I call it a family just because they are basically my family. I feel as though this community has supported me more than my actual family and friends have. So I'm actually really grateful for them, especially in the recent months where things have just been very busy for me and a lot of changes have happened for me. A lot of people have stepped up, especially, Black Hat, Mike Vollmer, like a Black Hat, Mike Vollmer, Blocky, Brian, like just a bunch of people that have really stepped up and moderated for me. And so I appreciate them a lot, just because I wouldn't be able to do anything I do or have as much like organization as I do without them. So yeah, I just really appreciate how people in the community, they just voluntarily step in and say, "Hey, I'll help you out." And I'm sure you've seen that too because you're on the rise and a lot of people have been helping you out as well. And a lot of people have been messaging me about you too. So I was so excited to do this podcast with you just because the community all works together, especially like Billy and Tex Max and all those people that are about givers gain. I think that's a huge part of the crypto community as well, just because people always want to just cycle that love. And I'm a huge proponent of that, especially women in crypto. When I came into crypto, women weren't really that nice to me. And still today it's a little bit iffy, but I've never been like that because I'm thinking the more the merrier. So I'm always here for other women in the space, especially.
Oh, okay. When I came into crypto, when I saw a woman there, I was automatically just drawn to her. I really was. When you said so, when you first came into crypto, what was your welcome like? Were you warmly welcomed by the crypto community?
Well, I think it was very odd because I called myself Miss Teen Crypto. So when I first started making videos, people didn't think I was real. And then there were a lot of women, like my dad was also like, helping me at the time. And like he was, kind of watching my back, just because I was really young. I was 17. But people knew who my dad was, and they still chose to come after me anyway. And I just thought it was really odd, especially for other women to come after a 17-year-old. But some of them have apologized to me and said, "Hey, I was wrong about that." And like all's well that ends well. Like we totally made up and it's all chill now. But it wasn't the most welcome from other women. But I do think like majority of the time it was all good. Like it was a very warm welcome from a lot of people because I understand that people thought I wasn't real just because there weren't a lot of women and especially there were no teenagers in the space. But all is
Mhm.
good now and we're all
All's good
friends.
now. And how obviously you support everyone coming into crypto, but what
Mhm.
do you think it's like for teenagers nowadays to get into crypto?
I think that other teenagers coming into crypto, like there's a few kids that I actually support. There's one kid, his name is Bitcoin Boy Izzy. I've known him since he was 12. He's 15 now, and he's always tweeting and doing spaces. I help him with spaces sometimes. So I think like I encourage teens to come into crypto because we do need more teens in crypto. I think a barrier to entry and why there's not a lot of teens in crypto is because in the US at least, you have to be 18 to get on a crypto exchange. So I feel as though if the market was more open to kids that are under 18, like if you were 14 and able to invest, there would be a lot more a densely populated teen community. But I definitely encourage teens to make content on crypto. I think it would be absolutely amazing, and I'd be there for them.
So let's talk about 2025 now. What's next for you?
What's next? Just continuing doing what I'm doing my podcast, and being able to interview more people in the space. I really want to do more education, so I'm working on reaching out to more colleges to do more education, more schools to do more education, working on educational content as well. So that's really my mission, and I really do want to help the legislative end of things. So I've been trying to make calls and text and email whoever I can to get to Washington D.C. because I do believe like whether you're politically motivated or not, which I'm not whatsoever, I don't care about politics. I care about crypto education and the fundamentals of Bitcoin being taken care of. So the more I can help people realize the empowerment of being your own bank and separating money from state, the better. So that's my mission.
So when you go to these schools and you talk to them about crypto, what's the reception normally like?
Amazing, actually. Because people just want to know what it is and how to get into it, because I think the mainstream media definitely has attacked crypto, as well as the last administration was just regulating by enforcement with no laws of the land. So it was essentially they were coming with things out of thin air and just saying, "Hey, you're a bad actor," but wouldn't give us a reason why. And I think that definitely deterred a lot of people. But when you show up to the schools, especially with people my age, they're like, "Okay, she's around my age, she understands it, there's no reason why I shouldn't be into it too." I think they're very receptive to things like Bitcoin, and Doge is really what a lot of people my age are into, just because that's what they know the most about and that's what's most approachable.
hmm Um, and you being a female, does that play any part in it?
I think like it is kind of neutral when it comes to people my age, but I definitely think it encourages other people, because especially like other girls, because usually when you hear about tech and finance, it's always a guy that's speaking to you, and technically an older dude that's like, "Oh yeah, you should get into this finance stuff." But when they see me, like a girl that's younger, they're like, "Oh, okay, like, she understands that she's into it, must be something that's appealing." So I think it's definitely been interesting. Overall, being a woman in the industry, I think, is a little bit more difficult. And I've seen that talking to other women in the industry, it's a little bit more difficult for them to do things just because they're women. And I think that's just odd, and it shouldn't be like that. But I feel like in the next few years, being a woman will almost be not an advantage, but something good in this space, because it'll help other women feel more comfortable.
hmm Okay. Awesome. That's absolutely brilliant. We are really short on time, so we're going to leave it there. But thank you so much, Randy, for coming on and giving us a little bit about your story. Hopefully, we'll have you back on the channel sometime soon.
Absolutely. I would come back anytime, and I appreciate you so much, and I'm here for you 100%, and I love what you're doing. So I really hope you keep going and never feel down, because you're going to make it big time. And I love your accent, by the way, and I think you're so pretty. And I hope everybody's smashing the likes and subscribing to this channel, because she is going to be one of the biggest things in this next bull run. And thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Keep calm, huddle on. I
Oh,
appreciate
that's so
everybody watching this,
cool.
and I appreciate you, Princess.
That's the thing about having a girl in the space. They know exactly what to say. Oh
I
my
do
God,
my best. I do my best.
that's awesome. Thank you so much.